Okay everyone, hello and welcome to another video on the HB with a BA project, and specifically of course Chamber of Secrets. So the chapters I'll be looking at today are the Rogue Bludger and the Dueling Club, and they're certainly action-packed chapters, which leads us of course to the question of why can't Harry just be normal? Because he certainly doesn't seem to have a lot of normal things going on. There are a lot of things that are just coming at him that he's like, why me? Would really be the question I'd be asking if I were Harry. And I think why Harry is the question we might want to ask in regards to these chapters. Because, man, wrong place at the wrong time for a lot of what's going on here. And that sort of super sucks. But what I find interesting, along with this question of why can't Harry be normal, is the fact that you then see that Harry's life is like severely sporadic. Like you see that really clearly with these two chapters. Because we are just getting the highlights, right? Like, Rowling's not going to write every single day that's happening. We're just getting the big events. And how you really know this is we actually do get a time shift that we can see. Because we know that the Death Day party and the first petrification, along with the message that the Chamber of Secrets has been opened, occurred on Halloween. But into the first couple pages of the Dueling Club, we actually find out it's the second week of December. Because McGonagall goes around making a list of who's staying at school. So we know for sure that the Golden Trio's investigations, their decision to use the Polyjuice Potion, and their aims to actually start figuring out how to do that, and, of course, Harry's really terrible first game of Quidditch, all must have happened between Halloween to the second week of December. Mostly, probably, we know the investigations are pretty early, so that's at least November. I wouldn't be surprised if the first Quidditch game is as well, but we know it's at least between those 2 points. What this then allows us to see is that we're not seeing everything. Like I said, we're getting the highlights. So we know that there has to be long periods of time where Harry is just doing normal things. Going to classes, doing homework, hanging out with friends, Quidditch practice. All of these things we so know roughly have to be going on. We might not know exactly what he's doing when, but we know he's got to be doing these things. He is at school. But what this then makes us aware of is how intermixed Harry's life is between these periods of normalcy and these periods of, like, severe anormalcy. These moments of action and fear and adrenaline and attention that needs to be paid. And I mean, it's happening again sporadically. It's not clumped all together. It's these periods of, okay, we're normal, and now we're not. Suddenly we've got a bludger after us. Oh god. And Dobby's showing up again. Great. Normal. Now we gotta figure out how to steal from Snape. Normal. And now we got a Dueling Club. And I can talk to snakes. And apparently that's not normal. Normal. See what I mean? Like, it's these weird points in time where we suddenly, like, up in action, up in attention, up in danger, and then, which really isn't the greatest thing to be going through. Anyone that has social anxiety, particularly, is going to know that to suddenly switch in a situation from one situation to another, that's not fun. Actually, you don't even have to have social anxiety to realize that it's not great when you think you know what's going on and then suddenly you don't. Like, Harry thinks this is a normal Quidditch game, and suddenly there's a bludger after him. Like, that's not a switch that all of us want to have to take. No one's sitting there going, I hope something goes severely wrong with my plans today so I can adjust to them accordingly. No, most of us are making plans so that we are prepared. And we don't want them to suddenly switch because then we're not going to be prepared. But Harry has to. And not like once or twice. Harry has to actually quite a bit from what we're seeing in these chapters. So really what we're seeing with Harry here is this need to switch from this normal mode, this inactivity mode, to sudden activity. He has to be able to just switch like that. Like, bludger's after me. Okay, this is how I need to respond. And that's not something that a 12-year-old should be able to do. I think it's something we all want to grow into. I think all of us would find it very useful to be able to make those switches as we go through in life. But it's not something we're expecting kids to have. You're asking a 12-year-old to be somebody like Mad-Eye Moody with constant vigilance. And I apologize for having done that. And the thing is, Harry is working towards that. Like, he's training himself to be able to make these switches. We see that with the Quidditch match. Because he's the one who says, like, Fred and George, back off, like, protect the rest of the team. I will handle this. Why? Because he's the only one who's been able to do it in the past. Like, he is fully used to looking out for himself and his friends. Because that's what he's been expected to do. One of the things I, like, super have an issue with is when a lot of people say, in the middle books, Harry got really, like, mopey and he didn't really want to do anything. That's because he was being a normal teenager in a situation where he is not allowed to be a normal teenager. Because everyone's expecting him to be this hero. That's an issue. He's a kid. Like, even to the end of the series, he's, what, working his way to 18 at that point in time? Yeah, most families, in Western society at least, I recognize this is probably different as you go into different cultures. Western society, you're looking at more of, you're not expected to know things until you're older than 18. In fact, society tends to look down, again, Western society, tends to look down on anyone who is younger than 18 who thinks they know something. Like, the moment you have an 18-year-old who's like, I got this all figured out, you've got people older than them going, no, you don't. So I don't think we should be expecting Harry to know what's going on. Except we are. Because everybody else in this world is. And we are being complacent in that. And what I mean by that is as we go through, and you can see it in these chapters, as we go through, everyone is expecting Harry, for the most part, to just deal with these things and have constant vigilance. What we're actually seeing happen with Harry here is in Harry's attempt to be able to handle these sudden, sporadic moments of danger, we have Harry learning very quickly, and actually in some parts very smoothly, to step into the roles that he needs to be into. And what I mean by this is that for the most part, Harry, as simply Harry, that is, the 12-year-old boy who didn't realize he was a wizard until a year and a half before this point at most, who's now training to be a wizard, disappears, and what he needs to be and is expected to be by others takes its place. Now, of course, we have a set of them. For the Quidditch game, of course, Harry's role is Seeker. and Harry disappears, and the Seeker steps out. In the duel, the dueling club, we have his hero persona coming to the fore when Draco summons the snake and Lockhart and screws it up. And with both of these, we actually see how smoothly Harry is becoming in changing between himself and these roles that he needs to do. In fact, rolling with the dueling club specifically says that Harry didn't even realize he was doing it until he was already moving. And the reason why he's becoming so good at this is because everyone is expecting him to be able to do this. They're expecting him to live up to the standards that they are presenting. Let's go with the Quidditch example, because oddly enough it seems to be the one that gives us the variety of perspectives. They start the Quidditch game, Bludger comes after Harry, Fred and George try and protect him, and then they have to call a break, and Wood tells them off for not being there for the rest of the team, and they're just like trying not to get Harry killed. And Harry tells them to back off. He says, I can't do my role if you guys are blocking me. I will handle the Bludger, you guys go and handle it. Like, handle the other Bludger, protect the rest of the team. I will handle this rogue one that's after me. And Wood goes with it. Wood's just like, yeah, this is how we gotta do it. Because he is expecting Harry to act as a Seeker, and not as a scared 12-year-old boy. And this is how Harry's acting. It's actually the rest of the team, specifically the speakers we have are Fred and George, and I'm gonna get her name wrong. My head goes with Alicia, but it's probably wrong. They all speak out, of course. She calls for an inquiry. Fred says that the Bludger would take Harry's head off, and George is the one to tell Oliver off, and I absolutely adored this moment. It didn't catch my eye before, it caught my eye this time around, where George is so mad at Oliver for telling Harry to get the snitch or die trying. He's so mad about Oliver having said that. So we actually have these people that are speaking up for Harry as Harry in this moment, not Harry as Seeker. But the thing to then take note of is who wins. 3 people speaking up. 2 people on the other side, one of which is a 12-year-old boy. These guys win. And these guys go with it. They're fully accepting. They might be a little reluctant at first, but they are fully accepting of the decision to allow the Seeker to take over instead of Harry. Because Fred and George could have gone against both Harry and Oliver and continued to try and protect Harry, but they don't. They step into their own roles within the team and leave Harry to be Seeker. So this rule thing actually has some plot here. Those who are speaking up against this danger are being told, like, no, you guys stick to what you're supposed to be doing. I will do what I am supposed to be doing. And we'll handle this. So it's not like roles are just purely surface. They seem to actually have some depth to them, or at least are attributed to having depth to them. The problem then becomes when they don't have depth to them, but everyone's still assuming they do. Within teams, roles do in fact usually have depth. Usually you have everyone who's working together as a team doing their own thing for the benefit of the team. So we've got like depth and connection, and everyone's covering each other and helping protect each other and strengthening weaknesses and blah 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 blah. But what we then see is more and more of Harry stepping into roles that don't have depth to them because they're not actually applicable to Harry. And this becomes really clear in the Dueling Club chapter. Because of course, the big one that is assumed is, oh my god, he's a Parseltongue, he must be evil, he must be the heir of Slytherin. We as the reader knows he's not. Because we've been following him. He was at the Death Day party when Mrs. Norris was petrified. He was arguing with Dobby in the hospital wing when Colin was petrified. He was wandering around the castle looking for Justin when Justin was petrified, yes, but we're following him. We know this doesn't have any depth to it. In fact, we also see with Snape and Lockhart during the Dueling Club, they both have this assumption that Harry wants attention. Have you noticed that with these two? For the most part, Harry doesn't. Harry actually just wants to be left alone. He wants that normalcy that everyone applying these roles to him is in fact denying. So they don't have any depth. What majorly causes problems, though, is once people will assign this role to Harry, they will start picking and choosing those aspects and actions which they see apply to the role, and ignoring those that are issues with it. For example, the heir of Slytherin one. Well, maybe not everyone knew that Harry and Ron and Hermione were at the Death Day party during the first petrification. It's pretty obvious considering how in front of the school Harry's injury and subsequent deboning were. A lot of students are probably going to assume that he's in the hospital wing during that second petrification, but that's not important. Because he spoke to a snake. Oh. Justin told him he was from Eton. Cool. The fact that one of his best friends is Muggle-born? No, that's not important. Like, really? You didn't like Colin taking pictures of him. Okay, so when it's applicable to this one, we know he doesn't like the attention. But when it's applicable to, you know, oh, he's an attention-seeking brat, suddenly him not liking pictures of him doesn't matter. Do you see what I mean? These rules, and they can be switched very quickly, don't have depth to them because the only depth people are allowing is what they want to see. They're not willing to see anything that contradicts that perception of Harry that they've applied to him. And this happens incredibly often through this series, where we see Harry either step into a role or be forced into a role and have to respond to that role because he can't simply step out of it. He can't suddenly decide, hey, you know what? No, I don't want to be the Seeker today. Well, no, because you're part of the team, and you have to do what the team needs you to do. You know what? I don't want to be the hero today. No, you have to, because you're the boy who lived, and you're the only one that can do this. And I'm pretty sure some adults can handle this. Nope, boy who lived. Like, Harry can't step back from these things, because every time he does, not only are the people of his world stepping forward with this assumption, but we the readers are doing it too. We've been told he's the boy who lived, so we're expecting him constantly to act like that. Which is where we get complaints when he's being an angsty teenager, where he needs to suck it up and do what he needs to do. No, that's more of us applying that to him. That's not actually anything he has to do. Like, it'd be nice if some adults stepped in here once in a while. Nope, boy who lived. So, oftentimes, that's the thing, 'cause we are as much in this negative position as people that we could then denounce for it. Like Snape constantly assuming, like, a lot of us have a problem with that. And then sometimes we catch ourselves doing this too. What I think one of the most disheartening parts of these chapters is, when it comes to these roles, is how Ron and Hermione entertain the idea that Harry is the heir of Slytherin. Because the moment he speaks Parseltongue, they close off. Like, nope, that's not normal. It's not a thing. Slytherin can do it. Nope. You see either of them denying it, particularly at the dueling club? Nope. You see them want to help him explain things to Justin? Nah, they're playing wizarding chess. In fact, Hermione says, like, if you're so frustrated about this, go and explain, like, go look for him. You gonna come with me on this? Like, this is actually a really difficult thing. Harry is dealing very strongly, for the first time, this, like, completely negative perception of him. And neither of his friends are volunteering to help him. Like, right in this moment where he has to directly face this, they both back off. And I have a bit of a problem with that. Because I would like to at least see them offer some help. I mean, Harry can deny it. Harry can decide, no, this is something I have to do on my own. But an offer to go with him to help explain things to Justin would have been nice. Because in fact it would have, you know, helped what happened with the rest of this chapter on. Because at least you'd have a witness to say, no, Harry and I were wandering around the castle for like the past hour looking for the guy. In fact, if you had a friend there, maybe Harry wouldn't have gotten mad and stormed off from the Hufflepuffs in the first place. Because with the Hufflepuffs, he's just hearing this dissonant voice. He's not hearing anyone in support of him. He's just hearing a bunch of people who are against him. And having a friend, maybe not even to the Hufflepuff's face, but to Harry's face, saying, I don't think you're evil. Like, I don't think you're the heir of Slytherin here. Would have been really nice. Because with this issue of his friends suddenly backing off, Harry suddenly starts entertaining the idea that maybe there is something wrong with him. He lies awake at night wondering, the hat wanted to put me in Slytherin, and I can do this evil thing. Why does talking to snakes have to be an evil thing? Why can't it just be a cool but rare thing? Because we're putting roles on people. Roles that don't actually matter. Harry has to either be the greatest thing in the world to these people, or the worst thing. And that shouldn't be the way we perceive people. But it's how we're perceiving Harry. And that's why I find it interesting that the start of the Rogue Bludger is actually Harry acting out roles in Lockhart's stories. Rowling's smart on this one. She wants us to pay attention to the roles that Harry's being forced into. So what better way of doing that than presenting several roles that Harry is being very clearly forced into? It adds some perspective. And right now I don't think it's the most positive one. Okay, so Harry's got a lot more problems to deal with as we continue on, because now the school thinks he's the heir of Slytherin. And of course, Justin getting petrified is not going to help that at all. So let's keep reading. I'm gonna keep going, and I will see you next week with another video. Enjoy your Harry Potter until then. Bye!